Yep. Good morning, everyone. So yesterday we learned about how we can create a simple interface using React components. So by using React components, how we can design a simple interface. We designed one example. So how to create a React application, how to use React in an existing application we learned. And we saw the 17 version related features. So yesterday we created one React application with enabled with Bootstrap and all. We designed this Netflix React app. So we created this Netflix React application, and this is the design. Yeah. So this is the design that we created using our React components. Yesterday we created this. So we learned how to create components, how to design components, and we learned how to use components in a hierarchy. So that means one parent component in that child. Here, how many components are working? 4 components are working. What are those? We have an index component, header, main, another one, register. These are the 4 components. So we created these components using functions. So we created a header and register, main, and Netflix index. So which one is starting with? It is starting with index. It is starting with index. That means it is rendering the component, the root, it is rendering into this div. So it is a single page application. So everything is designed in one page and running in one page. What is that page? Index.html. And here we used React version 17 because using CDN links and using offline libraries 17 we learned how to set up. We need 3 libraries for that. React, React DOM, and Babel. Babel is the compiler for this. So now today, this is just to have an idea of how a React application works. Basic overview. That means React application is completely built with components. And React application starts with index.html. And what are the basic rules of component? So we discussed some rules like every component must return a markup, and the components can be designed using function or class. Currently, we learned how to create component using function. What is difference between function and class? All these things we are going to learn. Detailedly, we will see that. So once you have an idea, this approach is no longer used in our applications. This is the React old version and its environment, its libraries. So we are going to deal with React 18. Now today we will see how we can create a React 18 application. How do we design a React 18 application? How we can set up everything for React application, we will see that. So in our previous example, the approach was for 17 application. What happened is in React 18, some new things are there which you have to know. Actually, React 18, so React 18 is a complete rewrite of React library. It is a complete rewrite of React library. That means actually, if a new version is released, usually what we think, some new features are added with the existing features. That means some new functions, new classes are added into library. But React 18 completely rewritten the library. That means the complete library is reconstructed. That is the reason React 17 and 18, so many changes are there. A lot of changes, including how you create a virtual DOM also different. The creation of virtual DOM also different. So in React 17, how we created and 18, how they create, we will see that. I will show you that point. But it is a complete rewrite. So it is having backward compatibility. That is advantage. Backward compatibility means even it is completely rewritten in new library. It supports old versions, old version related features, so that it is easy for migrating from older version to 18. Those migrations you will see towards end. Once you learn how to build, you will learn how to migrate. So 18 have 18x version are backward compatible. They are backward compatible. That means even you are using a 18 application, you can implement the features of 17 and make them work there. So it will be easy for migrating from the old version to new, right? So that is backward compatible. So what is advantage of this is easy to migrate from previous versions to new. That is another important. And actually, they in 18x versions introduced a client library, client DOM library. They introduced a client DOM library. So for handling virtual DOM. We already learned how to handle a virtual DOM. But 18x versions introduced a client DOM library. They introduced a new client DOM library. Through that, manipulating virtual DOM is little different when we compare to previous. What is how we done in 17? Actually, we used two files. One is React, another one is React DOM. But now in 18, this React DOM have a client library. Let's have a new client library added. So this is going to manage the virtual DOM actually. It is going to manage the virtual DOM. Earlier, only this used to manage. Now we have a client library because actually they have a client side rendering, server side rendering, two approaches they introduce. And to manage those two approaches, they separated this library. So client for virtual DOM. Server side rendering, we will see that how the server side rendering works. And the rendering into virtual DOM also changed. How we rendered a component in virtual DOM in 17. I will give a syntax here. 17 rendering. How we rendered in 17. We used React DOM dot render. It uses a simple component. That means here we have to define component and a target element. We have to use the target element. This is 17 rendering. In 18, the rendering approach changes. In 18, rendering changes. That means because I said that they changed the approach. In 18, what we have to do is, so we need to create a root element. So by using create root method, actually React React is having create root method. They introduced this create root method. By using that, target element will be used as a root. After creating target element as root, in the root we have a render method which is going to render the component. This is the new change they have made. So in 17 version, we used to render by using the above approach. In 18, it is a different. This create root is not available in 17. Create root is a new method added into 18. By using that, we create a root element, and into that root element, we render the content. So this is one basic difference here. Another important point is actually, so 18x versions introduced new, they have introduced new hooks for functions, new hooks for functions. They introduced several new hooks for functions. Actually, hooks are special type of methods for handling different interactions. So they are special type of methods. So what are those methods? I will tell you. Generally, hook is a function which will perform certain functionality. Here you can say that. So hooks means hook is a special method. You can simply say. Later, technically, you will see that. It is a special method. So why they introduced these new hooks concept is earlier in 17, developers used to depend on lot of JavaScript classes for designing component, for using component, for extending components. We used to design everything with class, because generally if any developer have an idea of reusability, extensibility, then he will first choose OOP related features. That means if you say that I want reusability, I want extensibility, then first OOP concepts will come into idea. So earlier in 17 version, people have to depend on lot of classes. JavaScript class, JavaScript classes will provide various reusability, extensibility features. But what is drawback of using lot of OOP in application? You learn drawbacks of OOP in JavaScript. What are the drawbacks? They cannot directly interact with hardware services. They don't support low-level features. They are tedious, heavy on application. They are slow, they use more memory. So if you are using a class of JavaScript for designing components and working with components, you have memory issues, you have speed issues, you have complexities. But what is the reason developers used to say about classes? They say that they are easy to extend, they maintain state. Those are the reasons they tell. But what 18 has done is whatever class can do, they made those possible through functions. That's the reason now React development approach changed from previous to the latest. Earlier people depends on lot of classes. Now we don't prefer much classes because whatever a class can do, now a function can do in React. Earlier it was unable. That's the reason we have a choice. Now a function can do everything what a class can do. That's the reason now React developers approach changed. So majority we use functions rather than classes. However, classes also use in various occasions where functions are not possible to handle with certain functionality. There we use classes. But majority, everything changed from classes to functions. So few years back, React means you will see everything classes. But now everything using functions because functions have all the abilities that they were not having earlier in React. That is possible through the concept called hooks. They introduced some new hooks so that it made easy. So 18x versions use functions for components. Functions for components. However, you can also use a class. However, you can also use a class, but versions 18 onwards, they use functions majority. They give priority for functions. Even the official React community recommends functions from 18 version. They say that better functions than classes. And if you see the official website's resources, in the official website, every help, every resource, you will find only with majority functions. That means they give priority for functions. And actually, so 18x have better error handling, better error handling. So when compared to the previous, it have better error handling approach. So actually 17 used to depend on runtime. So error handling, but 18x have a better error handling. That means it provides compile time and debug time. So error handling. So that is good actually. Compile time, debug time, because actually earlier in React, many are dynamic. Even in JavaScript, you know, several are dynamic. Dynamic means they are resolved at runtime. That means until you run, you don't know what is the problem. But that means the issues, because JavaScript always have that issue. That means JavaScript is not a strongly typed language, you know. If it is not a strongly typed language, compile time, it will not show any issues. Even if you misspelled or even if you mismatched the content, it will not show any issues until or unless it goes to runtime. That means JavaScript always dynamically resolves. So which is not a good issue, good point. Now they introduced the new libraries. So through what that they can easily identify the issues at compile time, debug time. While writing itself, it will show that this is not great, this is not good, this is not available. That's good. This was not there earlier in 17 versions. So we have a better error support. and 18x added have more security features. So security features, which I will tell you. So these we cannot explain until or unless you know the technology, because security means generally what people think about security. Security means people think like user ID, passwords and all. That's not the security concept. Security means how a developer can prevent his application from getting hacked, right? How he can manage his application. Security is about how to protect our application from various attacks. You know, web applications come across through various attacks. Can you name some attacks on web application? Means technical terms of attacks made on web application. You have like cross-site scripting attacks, request forgery attacks. So you have like cross-page posting attacks, cross-page posting, request forgery, cross-site scripting attacks. These are all major issues that you have to face. I hope you know other injection attacks will be there. SQL injection and other attacks will be there. So web application need to be prevented from these kind of attacks. Cross-site scripting attacks. Cross-site scripting attacks means later I will explain this, but a basic point I will tell you. Suppose you have a text box. Suppose you are having a text box. In a text box, we ask to enter name, and user is entering name like this. This is not a good approach. That means what you are trying to do, you are allowing user to write some code inside an element. So that means he can inject this code and that will turn to bold. That's not good. That means we should not allow these kind of coding techniques inside elements. There must be only plain content. These are cross-site scripting attacks. Cross-site scripting attacks means sometimes they allow, sometimes we need to allow. You know, in your Gmail, when you are composing a Gmail, they have an option, compose in HTML. You know, you can compose in HTML. You can compose in HTML. You suppose you are writing blogs, you are designing blogs. You can just copy paste in a Word style, or you can design it in a HTML style. If you have knowledge with HTML, you can design. That means what happens is your markup is allowed and it is used client side, and that can be dangerous sometimes. We need to prevent it. If anybody tries such things, we need to prevent it. These all require some securities. So React provides some more security features to protect application from various types of attacks. So React 18 comes with these some major points, some major points. So now we have to learn how to build a React 18 application. As I told you that React 18 approach is changed. They have removed the CDNs and all. They have removed the CDNs and everything. That means they ask us to build a complete React application and import the libraries and use those libraries in building an application. How to create a complete React application from scratch, that you will see later, because for that first you should learn React. So what we will do is we will learn how to create a React application using various package managers and bundlers. Actually, to create a web application, see, I hope you people know To create a professional web application and set up all the configurations, we have some tools. We have some tools like Webpack, like Parcel, like White. These are very popular tools used by developers to build a project. To build a project. I will tell you some reasons why you need these tools. That means why you need these tools, I will tell you. For example, you created a CSS file. You created a JavaScript file. And suppose in your project you have 3 pages. Now, these 3 pages have to use those CSS and JavaScript files. Then what you will do? Will you link everywhere? That's what you used to do. This is not good idea. This is not good idea. So what you can do is you can design environment in such a way that these files are present in their location, but they are used by all these 3 pages without linking. That means you don't need to link those files, but they will work. Styles are working in your HTML page, but you will never see any CSS attached. This is possible through the tools like Webpack, Parcel, White, and all. And actually, this is an interview question also. Means surprisingly, because many people don't know this, right? So and when they come to React uses this kind of environment every time regularly. In React, experienced people interviews also, they ask a question like, see this index page, it is not having any scripts, any CSS, but in my output, CSS is coming. How? So that is the question in interviews. Actually, it should not be a question in interview. It's a very general thing in web development. But many people aware of that concept that usually learners don't have an idea on this. That means they think that files are linked and used always, but they don't know about tools which can bundle their resources, configure the resources in such a way that without linking the resources, you can use. This is possible by using Webpack, Parcel, and White. Actually, React can use any of these tools for creating an application. And if you install Node.js, you installed Node.js already. I told you first we installed Node.js. Through Node.js NPM only, we installed React Babel libraries in the last session, right? If you install Node.js, it is ready to use this Webpack. That means Node.js is ready with a bundler called Webpack. You have different types of bundlers. You see, this is Webpack. This is Webpack. It is a bundler. It is for bundling your assets, your images, your scripts. That means actually in earlier, if you want a image in a page, you used to write entire path of image, folder name slash folder name slash, but now just image name enough. And you keep all images in one folder and access that directly with the name. No need of folder name. So without mentioning the folder name, how it knows that image is present there? Because it is already configured. We already configured that. And through what you have configured by using this tool, Webpack. So this is a bundler. We have like Parcel. Parcel is also a bundler. This is also a bundler. This is also a bundler. It is used for configuring your applications. So you have like White. So this is also a bundler. This is also a bundler. By using these tools, we build application. So what is advantage of this? All resources it will keep at one place. All your front end environment it will keep, and it will bind them through mapping techniques without really linking them. Not only that, lot of other configurations are designed by using this. So these are very popular in web development. Even an ordinary web application also uses these tools in real time. For building an application, they use these tools. And if you are using Node.js, by default, one bundler is ready. What is that? Webpack. Webpack bundler is ready. So through this Webpack bundler, you can create a application. It will set up everything for you. In the last session, yesterday, what we done? Yesterday, we set up this environment manually. Am I right? Every file we added manually, including package.json. How we added package.json? npm init y. We added package.json through npm init. So we manually added public src folders. And we got node modules from the libraries we installed: React, React DOM, and Babel, Bootstrap icons. We installed everything. This environment we set manually. Manually, I created this, and you saw that. You practiced that, right? So I posted this into the classroom code. At the end, I will share another classroom code for people who are unable to join, so that they can get the notes, because the existing classroom is full. Another classroom code I will share with you. You can get it from there. So here, the point is, this environment is automatically configured by bundlers. So that is automatically configured by bundlers. However, manually also I will show you. At the end, we will see that. Let's see how we can do it. That means creating React 18 application using Webpack bundler. So using Webpack bundler, this is implicitly. That means Webpack bundler is used implicitly, internally. Externally, I am not using. Externally, later at the end, I will tell you. Why? Because externally, to use Webpack by yourself, first you should have an idea on entire configuration. That means you should know how React project works. What are the parts of React project? Without knowing a project, how you will configure? That means in order to configure a project, first you should have an idea on project. So this configuration part we will see at the end, once we are aware of complete concepts. So here, do I need to install Webpack? Remember, if you are trying other bundlers like Parcel, White, you have to install them. But if you are trying to use Webpack, it is already installed. Means Webpack is already configured with Node.js. So what you have to do is very simple. First point, open any PC location in command prompt. Open any PC location in command prompt. That means you can choose any of the location in command prompt, D drive, E drive, anywhere you want. So you open the PC location in command prompt. So you see now, I will open command prompt, and any location I will choose here. For example, I'm using a D drive. I choose my D drive. You can choose anything you want, doesn't matter. Make sure that I am not using an existing one. Okay. Okay. Now what I am doing here is, we want to create a React application. Then you can run the command npx create React app. That is the command. npx npm, that is the package manager, and this is bundler. This is the bundler. npx is the bundler. So npm is the package manager through which you installed various libraries. This npx is a bundler of Node.js which uses Webpack not only to install but set up the project. That means not only installing library, it can set up a project environment for you. npm usually installs libraries and it will add all the library files into a folder called node modules. This npx not only installing libraries, it will set up a project environment for you. Let's see how it set up. npx create React app and app name, any app name. Suppose I will give some React project. That is the app name I am creating. So React project, make sure that I don't have that React project in my D drive. Okay, I'm not having React project, fine. I'm just using React project, npx create React app, React project, and hit enter. Now it is going to create a React application for you. For that, whatever necessary, it is going to install everything for you. See, it is installing React DOM. It is setting up everything. Yesterday, we done this manually. We manually installed the libraries. We created a folder and everything. Now it creates a folder for you. It loads all the libraries. It will set up environment for you. So to understand this environment, I showed you the previous approach. In previous approach, yesterday what we learned, how to create a folder, how to add libraries manually into the folder, how to set up environment for a React application, we learned that. But now everything is done implicitly. Internally, it will do that. So it will take some time to create all this. So what you have to do, run the following command. So that is, you have to run the command npx create React app. These commands are case sensitive, capitalization matters. So you need to be careful. And remember, by default, React application is created with JavaScript as language. If you want React application with any special requests, like I want with TypeScript or any others, then you have to add some commands extra so that it will create with those requests. Later we will do that. Later we can create a React application with TypeScript also. But first we will see the complete React application using JavaScript. Then we will change into TypeScript. So this here a note is default React app is created with JavaScript as language. JavaScript as language is created with the JavaScript as language. So let's wait until it's done with all this. So it is still setting up. This approach you are learning because you are new to React. So many times people ask like, in real time also we do the same. No, because in real time what we do, we set up manually just like yesterday I showed you, including Webpack also manually. Why? Because through this NPX, when you set up a project and install, it will add everything which is needed for a React project, but you may not require it. That means you don't need it, but it adds everything. That becomes heavy on applications. That's the reason in real world, what we do, we manually configure. What we want, only that we include here. So application is ready. So it created the application. Let's close this now. So project is ready. Now, once the project is ready, so now what you can do is open project folder in your editor, and your editor is VS Code. And let's open that project folder in editor and see. So I will open file, open folder, and where is it in D drive? It is React project, and let's select the folder. And you see the environment here. It is same exactly how we created. Am I right? That means the environment is same except 2 files extra. The same environment. Yesterday we designed this manual. We created a public folder. We created an SRC folder. We added package JSON manually. Why I showed you that environment? Because traditionally every web application have that environment. So now any basic learner of web designing, he knows this environment. That means he knows what is package JSON. He knows what is public. He knows what is SRC. This is not a concept to. That means many times people ask like, sir, will you explain the file structure of React? What you are talking about? Then what you done in your general web designing, HTML, CSS, don't you know what is a public folder? Don't you know what is an SRC folder? Without that, how you become a web developer? These are basics of web application, very basic of web application. These are not the topics to learn in React. So these are very common things, right? You know already these. We worked with this, right? What package JSON contains? Meta. All the project related metadata configurations are defined inside packages. What public contains? Static resources. What SRC contains? Dynamic resources. What is this node modules? So package related, all library files are kept in node modules. You have to import from there, right? Additionally, you have two things extra here. That means what are the two things extra is git ignore. Another one is readme. Actually, git ignore is used when you are collaborating your project with Git, like versioning tools, Git like publishing tools and all. GitHub page. That means when you are deploying on cloud, configuring with cloud, which I will show you. We will see that how to deploy on cloud. We will see that while deploying on cloud, especially when you are configuring with Git. So some files, some path that you have to ignore, not to publish. Those all we configure in this location, Git ignore actually. Later, when you see cloud deployment, you can understand that. What is README is a general help document given to every developer to understand how to work so that other developers can understand how to handle it. What is there, how to handle it, everything is defined here. So usually the project that you created, file system. So React project file system comprises of following. I'm giving an overview for that. One is folder. So, and a description, just a description. You already learned on here, right? But still, I just give a basic point about that. So what you will see in React project is node modules. So it comprises of all library files installed in project, all library files installed in project. Another one, we have a public folder. So we have a public folder. You know, it comprises of all static resources. Static resources, you know, what are those? HTML, images, text documents, other documents and all. So SRC, it comprises of dynamic resources. Dynamic resources means JavaScript, TypeScript. So we have SAS, CSS, SAS, SCSS, all this. So we have static resources, we have dynamic resources kept in them. So package.json, that means it comprises of, you can say, project metadata. And we have package lock.json. So it comprises of library metadata. That means what libraries are installed, you will get in package.json. About that library detailed information you will get in package lock.json. So that is what you will have, two files, package and package lock.json. So that means which library installed, which version installed. You can see that in package.json. And the detail about that library, more details about that library you will get in package lock.json. So here some commands I will tell you. So you will learn some commands. Another one, you will have git ignore. So actually it configures the repository. It configures the repository to ignore while publishing on Git. That's what actually. We have readme.md. So it is a help documentation provided for developers. So about the project, the help documentation provided for developers, it is in this. Yesterday we set up all these, only two were missing there. One is git ignore, another one is readme. The rest of everything we added manually to create that Netflix environment. So this is actually the file system, basic file system of a React application. So how this automatically added to your folder? Because of that Webpack. That means currently we are using Webpack as a bundler. Implicitly, we are using Webpack as a bundler. So you don't need to install any Webpack. So generally to use a bundler, you have to install it. Why we don't need to install? Because we are using NPX. Node.js already set up with Webpack. So it's easy for us. Otherwise, you have to separately install that bundling tool and through that only you can create. Okay. Now, as we installed Node.js in the first session, I showed you environment, NPX will work. Right? Now, this is the project environment. And now I hope you people will tell me where I can find index.html. So it will be in public folder. And you see in public, all static resources are kept and index.html is there, just like how we designed. Let's examine this index.html. In this index.html, you see this index.html is having the basic HTML, and you see it is having body, no script, and div id root, everything same like as we done. Am I right? Yesterday we designed the same thing. Manually we created this, and it is having the same automatically set for us. Right? Yesterday you saw that we manually added this no script, and we know the purpose of this. We manually added this. We know the purpose of this. Why? This is used for virtual DOM. Virtual DOM is rendered here. Into this element, the virtual DOM is rendered. Shadow DOM is rendered here. Now the point is, now where is the code? You will see there is no script link, library linked, but it will be using your scripts and libraries, all of them, because they are configured through Webpack. How to configure that manually, you will see later. But it is simple empty, means it's just having in the body section one element called div. Right? Now the question is, where are the components? See our yesterday's project side by side, I will compare. Our yesterday's Netflix app, I will compare. In our Netflix app, you can see that here, this is the Netflix app. In this Netflix that we designed, it's having same, no script, and it is having a div root code, React DOM dot render, and where are these components? Where are these components? Generally, in general, tell me, an ordinary web application where you will keep all the script in a separate script file, that have the extension .js, and where you will keep the script files in src folder. So yesterday what we done, yesterday we created everything here, right? Yesterday we created everything here. In one place we are designing, everything we created at one place, right? Now what we need to do here, so we need to keep this Netflix. You will see that when I go to the folder, so in src folder, you will see all the scripts are kept here. All the script files are kept here. And what are the script files? It is having some app.css, it is having some test.js, it is index.css, index.js. Some files are present here. And here the key point is, I will explain the environment here. Means we will see the environment, because already we set up this manually. Application starts in general. See. So what you need to understand here is, first thing, actually This is our application, means this is the React application. So this is the React application. So I will say that this is a React app. So now what is happening is the output that you watch is coming from index dot what HTML. The output is coming from index dot HTML. And the code for this index is coming from actually index.js. So yesterday what we done, all the code we kept in same HTML file, index.html file. But in a real world project, what happens? The code is kept in a separate script file. That means we will have a index.js. That means all the code will be here. The code will be here. So index.js, what it will do is it will render your component. Am I right? It will render your component into which page? Index.html page. And here yesterday's approach is we have the HTML itself, but now it's script file. So the question is, where is component designed? It is rendering a component. Where is component designed? Component is designed in another file. That means what we do, we design a component in another file. That component we import in this JS file. Understood? That component we import in this JS file, and this component we will render into HTML. That means usually what happens for every component? For every component, we will maintain a separate file. So earlier, yesterday's approach, all components you created in index. But now components are maintained in separate file. Those components are imported into index, and index is going to render. And what is the point here is we are React 18, am I right? React 18 is not going to use React DOM dot render method. It's an old approach. It is going to use new method. What is it? Create root. By using that, it will create a root element. Into that root element, it will render. Let's observe that here now. Let's go to our project. Let's go to SR. What is the startup file? Index.js. Let's go to index.js. You see in this, we have a root and a dom.create root. And document get element by ID root, which is a div. Am I right? Which is a div. So it is creating a root. After that, root dot render. And it is rendering app. But it is rendering this component. Actually, it can directly render. It is using strict mode. You know strict mode already. JavaScript have a strict mode. How JavaScript strict mode is turned on? JavaScript strict mode is turned on by using use strict. Am I right? It is turned on by using use strict. In React, strict mode is turned on by using React.strict mode. What is strict mode? In JavaScript, what is strict mode? What is strict mode in JavaScript? It will not allow to violate the coding standards. So if you turn off the strict mode, then developer can violate the coding standards and write, and still it may work. But we don't want developers to violate the coding standards. We want him to write as per the standards. Then we force developers to write everything in strict mode. Right? That is general JavaScript strict mode. In JavaScript, how you turn on the strict mode? Use strict. Am I right? By using use strict, you turn on the strict mode in JavaScript. Usually this React is rendering this app component. Yesterday we rendered Netflix index component. Right here it is rendering which component? App. Now you have an idea. So application is starting with which component? App component. Application is starting with app component. And you see the new library here. They are importing React and they are importing React DOM client, which is new. DOM client. So in the beginning, I explained the new library here. Am I right? This is what they are using, React and React DOM client from latest. And there they have an option create root. Actually, it is not just React DOM dot create root. Create root. They are using that root and rendering that component into the root. That means now tell me here. So by seeing this architecture, now you are easy to understand you because you already created it. Our application starting with which component? App component. Let's see where is this component. In the SRC, app component related code is in app.js. Let's go to app.js. You will see app.js is a function. Am I right? And this function is returning some markup. Na? That's what we created in our previous session. This function is creating a component. So that means this is a component. It is a component. And you learned import export in JavaScript. JavaScript module system you learn now. That means how to export functions from a module, how to import functions from a module. That's what module system teaches you, right? In JavaScript, you learned that. So usually now this is the content which is rendering in our index page. Let's start this project and see. Earlier, how you to start project, we have to open with live server. That means right click on index page, open with live server. But this is a complete environment. All configuration should start. Then only your application is ready. Then what you have to do is, so now I will give you the points here. Means React basic flow. Later we will learn detail. Means complete architectural flow. I will tell you. Basic flow, React basic flow. Actually in this, so application first pointer. So yeah, first one, application starts with index.html. Application starts with index.html. After that, code for index.html. So index.html, it is in which folder? Public. Code for index.html comes from index.js. It is in which folder? SRC. So index.js is using a component app, a component called app. Am I right? So to render into index.html, it is using a component called app to render into index.html. So app component code is defined in app.js. App component code is defined in app.js. And how a component is designed, you know, component is designed as a function. It is designed as a function. So app component code is defined in app.js. That is the approach. So what is happening is you have a div with an ID called what? Root in index HTML. So what this is in index.html. Now what happening is, so we create a root. So a constant root is equal to, so React DOM dot create root. Create root, it is using what? Document dot get element by ID root. It is accessing that and using. And root dot have a render method. It is rendering which component? App. Means basic approach I am showing. So this is the basic approach. Yesterday we created the same environment, but we kept everything in one page. So what you have to do, every component create in a JS file and you import them and you use them. That is the approach we have to follow here. And here it is starting with React component. Which component it is starting with? App. With app component it is starting. How to start your project? So to start project, you have to just run the command npm start. npm start. npm start from terminal, you have to just run this. That means automatically your project will start. And actually, React application starts on HTTP colon localhost. It uses 3000 as port number. That is the default point. If anybody asks like, can I change these port numbers? Yes, of course you can change. For that, you need to go to configurations and modify them. That's what you will learn later in Webpack. How to configure which port number it should run. So where it should run, everything we can do. But by default, in every application in the world, when you start practicing React, by default, it uses 3000 as port number for React. You can change them. It doesn't matter. Sometimes already in that port number, if any project is running, it automatically alerts you that already port is in use. Do you want to use another port number? You can choose another port number. So this is starting. Let's observe carefully now here. Let's open the terminal. This is the terminal and we have to run the command npm start. So it will start, it will execute. And if anybody asks what is this npm start, you know, in JavaScript, you learn npm start and all these. I told you that in JavaScript, they are batch programs. Remember, they are all batch files, batch programs. That means under one name, so many set of sequence of statements are defined. You just run, automatically it starts. Where to configure this batch programs? These are configured in package JSON. In package JSON, these commands are configured. You can see in scripts area. In scripts area, start means it will start the React scripts and it will start the application. Right? Build means it will start the React scripts and it will build the application. That's the commands actually. Anyhow, you observe carefully, it is successful now. You see Webpack compiled successfully. But we manually never used a Webpack. But we discussed that NPX is using Webpack. So it's not necessary that everybody have to use Webpack. You will see some of the projects in React using a different bundlers, but majority uses Webpack. And see, currently React project is working on this port number, right? On internal network is this one. That is for configuration of projects, modifying the configurations, you need that. But just to view the project, this is the IP. That means let's open that and see. That means already it is opened in browser. You can see it launches the browser and it will get this. Now tell me from where this UI is coming. App component. It is coming from app component. Is it coming from index page? The page you are watching is index, but the component in index is app. That's what yesterday, like we started with Netflix index. But in Netflix index, so many components are there. Header, main, register, all those components we designed. So let's modify this output. To modify this output and put our own, where we have to go. So we need to go to the file app.js. It's a function which is returning something, right? So I will do one thing. I will delete all this, what it is returning, and make sure that everything is in one container. Am I right? It is in one container. And here we will put a heading. So heading say welcome to React 18 something. And if I do the modification and save, automatically it is compiled again. Because you see in the background, the compilation is working again. So that means it is going to process and compile again. Okay. It is done. It is showing errors. Don't worry about these errors because it is saying that you are using some images, you are importing some images, but you are not using them. It's okay. We are not using them because this default screen is using some images. We deleted it and we kept only heading. Now see the output. It's there. Now important is how we can create our own components and put here. That's a simple approach now. What you have to do now? So yesterday, like Netflix, you want to create a component and you want to put it here. Then what to do? You need to first go to SRC folder. Here, create a new file, add a new file. And I will give the file name as Netflix index. I will give the file name as Netflix actually, yeah, Netflix index dot JS. As per tradition, I am giving. Later, I will tell you modifications and everything. Okay. Now write a function here. Means create a component. How to create a component? We already know. We need a function. Function what? Netflix index. Netflix index is the function. What it should return? It should return a simple container. In this container, we will just keep a heading. So Netflix home, something. Later, we will design all the interface, right? Now, this function is kept in a separate JavaScript file. You know that these files use a module system and they cannot be accessible outside. To make them access outside, you know what to do? We have to mark it as what? Export. In JavaScript, you learn this module system, export. Okay. Now, where to import and use it? We have to import and use it in index.js. In index.js, we have to import that file here. How to import? Import that function. Import, what is the function name? Function name is Netflix index. That means we have to import what it is? Netflix index. We have to import from this particular file. That is the module name. And now we will change the component. Instead of app component, which component it should render? Netflix index component it should render. Then automatically it will remove the app component. It will put our Netflix index. That means we created a component and we rendered that component. So that is the basic approach. In this, we can design the complete Netflix screen as we done earlier, just like previous. I will show you that approach, how we can do that. but I hope you are clear with this, right? That means this time today you have seen how to create a React application using 18, and how do we modify and how do we set up our screen in that application. Yesterday we done this all manual, right? Manually adding, installing libraries and everything. Now we have a webpack bundler. Through that we are creating project and we are setting up environment. So this is enough for today, right? You have to try this, creating React application and set up environment for that React application. Once you do, now tomorrow we will start working with this application. That means in tomorrow's session, we are going to learn how to deal with components in React 18. What are the basic rules and how do we work? Yesterday, till yesterday, you learned up to React 17. From 18 onwards, we will see more detail here. Everything we will create with a real world environment. One real world screen we will see, and we will try to replicate that using this approach that we will see in tomorrow's session. Okay, right. And people who are unable to join the React classroom, so we will add one now. Another classroom here is, yeah, I will just add a class here because the class is full actually. Seven a.m. So people who are unable to join the previous classroom code I given, they can join here. Already people who joined, please don't come into this. This is for the people who are unable to join. Keep this code so that here all the classroom related notes we will upload here. Okay. So that is the note. Okay. Right. Then we will continue in tomorrow's session. Right. Thank you.